Tuesday, 15th August 1864 began like any other. Thomas Arnott rose early and prepared for his day's work as a surfaceman on the local Alloa to Stirling Road, around 300 or 400 yards from Tullibody Bridge. Here he was paring the path and clearing the run channel, which was clogged with leaves and debris, so water gathering in it could freely move. The work was mundane, but that afternoon his life was to change forever. 12-year-old farm servant James Peyton was in the vicinity and approached Arnott, who by this time was in a foul mood. Peyton worked for and lodged with George Henderson of Blackgrange Farm. He was leading a horse pulling a cart and ran over the place that Arnott had just finished clearing. He was so incensed by the boy's actions that he grabbed his shovel, raised it above his head, and without a word knocked the boy down to the ground with a blow to the back. Using the edge of the spade, he hit the incapacitated Peyton on the head twice or 3 times. When he finally stopped the assault, he simply picked up his tools of the trade and went home, leaving the boy where he lay. The next day, Peyton succumbed to his injuries and died. That night, 54-year-old Arnott was arrested and thrown into Alloa prison. During interrogation, Arnott freely admitted what he had done. In his statement, he said he had not seen the boy before, but added that he was so angry at the time that if he had been a giant, he would have done exactly the same thing. He had informed his wife and family on the Tuesday night when he got home of what he had done, and had shown some remorse for his actions. When he was apprehended, he quoted to the police officer an old proverb, that those who were born to be hanged would never be drowned. He was deemed to be eccentric, if not intellectually impaired. Arnott was held in prison until his trial on Monday 6 June 1864 at the High Court of Judiciary in Edinburgh. His defending solicitors, J. Guthrie Smith and R. V. Campbell, claimed that their client was of unsound mind and was unable to give instructions for his defence. They held it, therefore, that he was not fit to stand trial. John Gregory Wallace, writer at Alloa, was the first witness. He told the court he had been consulted by Arnott's wife in April about his defence, and the next day he saw him. Arnott had claimed his actions were not his responsibility, but that of the Free Church of Scotland that had spurned him for the past 18 years, and that they had published articles in the local paper against him. He also accused Robert Mowbray, owner of the Cambus distillery, of being instrumental in this persecution. Wallace spent 45 minutes with him and told the court the discussion was disjointed and asked Dr. Brotherston to visit him. He saw him 10 days later, then again on the 26th of May, but he repeated his accusations rather than give an eyewitness account as to what he had done. The next witness was the Reverend F. Goldie of the Free Church in Tullibody. He told the court that Arnott's daughter had come to him on the 15th of March in distress and told him her father had killed a boy, but he didn't believe her story as Arnott had a habit of making things up. The minister said, "I knew he did so." In June 1860, he turned up at the church, and the accused had written a note stating, "If anyone who have a charge to bring against me, I am here to answer for myself." When the minister had questioned him on what he meant, he told him that he knew all about it. He said he had been preaching against him. That fateful night, Goldie visited Arnott at his home. The minister told him he had heard the boy had been run over by a cartwheel, but Arnott refuted the claim and told him outright that he had done it. When asked if he felt remorse, he replied, "Not a bit for the deed. I'm sorry for my wife and family." A few weeks later, the minister encountered Arnott as he was working and said that he was working under Mowbray and he had been paid to preach against him. Robert Mowbray also took the stand, but said that he had only ever spoken to Arnott once, and he had never spoken to Goldie or conspired with him. Another witness was Arnott's co-worker, Andrew Stalker, who worked on the same road as Arnott. He had known him for about 4 years and said he used to complain to him that he was being persecuted, especially by Mowbray, and that the minister was preaching against him. He went on to say that about a month before the murder, he had asked him how he was getting on with his work, to which he replied, "Not very well," as he was working among stones and mud, and that it was all the government's fault. Next to take the stand was the Reverend Thomas Murray, who had spoken with him on 7th May while he was incarcerated. When pressed as to why the Free Church would have a vendetta against him, he said it was because his wife was not a member, and that the persecution had been going on for years. He concluded after an hour's conversation that Arnott was in a state of monomania. Professor Douglas McLagan was called next. He had seen Arnott twice, along with Dr. Arthur Mitchell, and he was of the opinion he was insane. He had wanted to ascertain the state of mind and firmly believed he was delusional, but instead of suffering from monomania, he believed he was suffering from mania. Mitchell agreed when he took the stand, and was further convinced by the evidence given at the trial. Once all the evidence had been submitted, the Lord Justice General, Duncan MacNeill, Lord Colonsay, after consulting his fellow judges John Cowan, Lord Cowan, and George Dease, Lord Dease, agreed that he was insane and not fit to stand before the court, and that he was, at present, in a state of insanity. He was sentenced to be held in Alloa Jail at Her Majesty's pleasure and removed from the court. During the trial, he showed indifference to what was happening.